Arequipa is called the White City. It sits at the foot of an enormous dormant volcano with a snow-capped peak and two smaller volcanoes around it. The Spanish colonial buildings are constructed in white volcanic ash with intricate balconies, carved doorways, and majestic churches. I chose this gorgeous place to relax and do nothing. I was traveling through Latin America and getting tired of moving every 2 weeks. Nothing forced me to move, but nothing beckoned me to stay either. I decided to make one last stop in Peru before heading to Argentina. I chose Arequipa because many people, both travelers and locals, told me it was beautiful. The power of gentle suggestions can play a surprising role in one's choices. The flight from Cusco to Arequipa took about an hour. The plane landed at 7 p.m. and it was already dark outside. The exterior of my new home was painted a cheerful dark red with ornate white cornices, still festive with Christmas decorations. The host couple lived on the first floor, which also served as a beauty salon. The 4 guest rooms were on the second floor. Over the staircase was a sign reading, "Happiness lives here." At the foot of the stairs was a nutcracker the size of a 7-year-old child and an alarmingly lifelike statue of a German shepherd. The sound of barking came from the back patio, where a real German shepherd jumped with excitement at my arrival. There was a large rooftop terrace with a washing machine, laundry lines, and a shaded seating area. On a clear day, you could see the snow-peaked volcano in the distance. I would do an hour of yoga there every morning after breakfast. The shared kitchen had a cabinet full of condiments and non-perishables left by previous guests. I found some white rice and began boiling myself a batch, but regretted it after digging a little deeper and finding brown rice, which I would have preferred. There was also cumin, turmeric, cayenne, black pepper, and an unlabeled bag of fragrant dried herbs. My rice and lentils were exceptionally flavorful that evening. One of the rooms was occupied by a young Peruvian couple whom I rarely saw. I offered them a container of French fries from my food delivery. The next evening, they invited me to have a glass of red wine on the terrace, but I politely declined. I don't drink alcohol, and I've been feeling particularly antisocial these days, with the exception of having phone calls with my close friends. The main reason tourists stop in Arequipa is for Colca Canyon. It's the second deepest canyon in the world, twice as deep as the Grand Canyon in the United States. First place goes to the Grand Canyon in Tibet. Even though there are many tour companies who pick you up and drop you off, I had no desire to go. Perhaps because pickup is at 3 a.m. and the drive to the canyon is 3 hours long. I was feeling the need to rest more these days. After all, traveling long-term is a marathon, not a sprint. My room had every comfort I needed. A large bed with a firm mattress, a sofa, a table, 2 chairs, and a private bathroom. I found it hilarious that the sink faucets had hot water on the right and cold water on the left, but the shower faucets were positioned in the opposite direction. There was a TV with streaming sites included, which is a real treat since I don't subscribe to any on my laptop. After indulging in hours of films and TV series for a few days in a row, my head hurt. I decided it was time to go explore the city and also to return to reading books. I had been reading Once We Were Warriors by Alan Duff. The story follows a Maori family living in poverty-stricken Auckland, New Zealand. The violent patriarch, Jake, struggles with alcoholism and abuse, tearing his family apart. His wife, Beth, tries to hold everything together while their children navigate a world of gang violence, social alienation, and a fading sense of cultural identity. The story made me wonder about the personal lives of the indigenous people of Peru. I saw them every day in Cusco and the Sacred Valley, Once I passed a construction site and all the workers were Quechua women. Despite their deep connection to the land, indigenous communities are often marginalized and disadvantaged by the modern world. Arequipa is smaller than Lima and calmer than Cusco. The Plaza de Armas is a UNESCO World Heritage Site surrounded by beautiful streets. I went to a free museum about llama and alpaca textiles. The sun was scorching hot and the air was dry. I checked the UV index on my weather app, and it said extreme. It was Saturday. I stopped at a picanteria, which is a restaurant known for serving spicy and flavorful dishes. I got the adobo, which was pork served in a red broth with boiled onions and a loaf of bread for dipping. At the end of my meal, the waiter asked, "Cafecito?" which meant little coffee. I nodded yes, but was confused when he served me a small cup of hot, dark liquid with chunks of fruit floating inside. Now, in the grand scheme of global coffee drinking, this recipe would not be considered unusual. In northern Vietnam, they serve coffee with whipped raw egg whites. In the United States, there is something called bulletproof coffee, which involves butter. Perhaps coffee in Arequipa is served with pieces of fruit. I asked the waiter if the fruit was supposed to be in the coffee, and he corrected himself, saying it wasn't coffee but tea, which made a lot more sense. I sipped my hot drink, paid my bill, and went back out into the midday sun. I walked past a wedding party taking photos in front of a grand church. Arequipa is indeed a beautiful place to live. As usual, I went shopping at the central market for fruits and vegetables. I bought strawberries, peaches, limes, ginger, mangoes, bananas, string beans, and tomatoes. I looked around at the food stalls and was pleased to see the typical menu items were different from the ones in Cusco. Potato cakes, stuffed red bell peppers, roast pork sandwiches, and almost every vendor had ceviche. I tried the roast pork sandwich, which was delicious, and bought some empanadas from a stall, one chicken and one beef. We have something similar in China called 盒子. It has the same half-moon shape of an empanada. We wrap the filling in white flour dough, hand-fried in oil, and dip it in soy sauce and black vinegar. In my house, the filling was usually chives, egg, and ground pork. I wondered what my grandmother would think of these empanadas, made with thick, buttery pastry dough and baked in an oven. She never even saw an oven until she came to the United States in her 50s. I lived only a 15-minute walk from the Plaza de Armas, and what a difference 15 minutes can make. My kind hosts warned me to take a taxi after 7 p.m., because that's when it gets dark. There were houses in my neighborhood that looked newly renovated, but there were also many that looked abandoned. There was even a Aikido studio, although I couldn't tell if it was operating. The streets became more deserted as I walked further away from the city center. I thought my hat and sunglasses helped me blend in with the locals. After all, I do have light brown skin and straight black hair, common features in most Peruvians, but apparently not. On my walk home from the market, I noticed a man was following me. At first, we were walking towards each other in opposite directions. Then, I heard someone whispering, "China, China, China." I turned around to see the man had changed direction and was now walking towards me. It was only 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I was laden down with groceries and wasn't sure what to do, drop my bags and run? Luckily, there were 2 police officers also walking towards us. The man turned around and hurried away. After the incident, I planned on cocooning myself in the apartment for the rest of the week until I ran out of groceries. Of course, I didn't actually do this. I still took daily walks around the gorgeous Plaza de Armas and went to the market every day for cheap, tasty lunches. At the beginning of this 14-month journey through Latin America, I lived in Mexico City for 6 months. I took a short trip to Bacalar, a small lakeside town known for its stunning turquoise lagoon. One day, I went for my daily swim, and a local man wouldn't leave me alone. He kept asking me if I had a boyfriend, if I were here alone, if I wanted to go out with him. His advances, though not overtly aggressive, still made me very uncomfortable. I swam away. He did not follow. When I was leaving the lagoon, he was waiting for me at the exit with the same questions. Again, I declined and walked away quickly. A few hours later, I was on my way out of my accommodation and spotted him riding past my street on a bicycle, looking directly at me. Nothing happened, just the ever-present feeling of discomfort. It was a sobering realization that even in the most idyllic of settings, safety remains a concern. After 6 months in Mexico, I moved to Colombia, and a taxi driver kissed me on the mouth. On the 20-minute ride to my accommodation, he asked all the typical questions of where I'm from, what do I do for a living, and how long I'd be staying on the island. He also asked my marital status and winked when I told him I was single with no children. He dropped me off, and I saw him again a week later when he dropped off some new guests. He opened his arms to give me a hug when I came over to say hello, offering his cheek for me to kiss. When I leaned in, he shifted his face to kiss me on the lips. He seemed delighted at the look of disgust on my face. I'll tell you about my sexual harassment experiences in Asia and the United States another time. On my last day in Peru, I cooked the rest of my vegetables with leftover rice and lentils. Then I ate all the fruits I had left, and went for my last walk in Arequipa feeling quite bloated. I have a tendency to stress eat before a flight, especially international ones. I used the last few spoons of coconut oil in my hair and saved a slice of lime to add to my water bottle the next morning. Sometimes I wish I was part human, part plant. I'd stand under the sun and make my own food. I'd water myself by standing under the shower or washing my hands. There'd be no need to think about what to eat, when, or how much. If I was a plant completely, like a cypress tree rooted to the earth or a water lily floating on the water, the bees and the butterflies would come, animals would eat my leaves. Someone may even cut me down and use me for kindling. But I would be unbothered, because I'm a plant, oblivious. But I'm not a plant. I'm a human being, a woman traveling the world alone, and I cannot afford this peaceful detachment. While I may lack the serenity of a plant, I possess something far more powerful: intelligence. And with intelligence, I have the ability to overcome and carry on with head held high towards the light. I can navigate the world with my own agency and make choices to protect my well-being. This will not be the last time I experience unwanted attention from men. This is the way the world has always been, and for many women, much worse. I will continue on in my travels, encountering both the exotic and the familiar, and I will bring you the stories that come with it. One needs a balance of solitude and socializing while traveling long-term. Get a glimpse of my social life in Mexico City in this video, where I meet some Eastern Europeans at brunch, get tacos with a South African who grew up in Korea, and get chased down the street by a man who really wanted to take me out to dinner.